Hey there. Welcome. We're going to talk today about your empathy and are you projecting it onto others, onto narcissistic people who are not actually reflecting any empathy back at you, right? Are you taking your empathy and placing it places that are causing danger to your life and causing your life to be around people who are toxic to you because you're sitting and hoping and waiting for them to increase their level of empathy based on your empathy, right? Projecting it outward, assuming others also share in your empathy. So I'm Lise Colucci, and I'm here to help you transform your life after being around toxic people, being raised by toxic people, all of that. Hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. I am trying to do more live streams here, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications button so you are notified when I come on live. Anyway, okay, and I'm trying to focus these live streams on healing topics, on topics of your transformation, your well-being, and I'm taking these topics as they come and as the chats from the other live streams sort of prompt. So this came from a viewer who had a question about projecting empathy onto narcissists. So let's talk about empathy for a second. I'm going to read some stuff to you about empathy. Okay, just to simplify here. In psychology, social psychology, it's categorized as an emotion or a cognitive ability to sense and feel and experience the other person's emotions. And we know there's different types of empathy, and I'm not going to go into the whole long thing. I have a whole video on that. But basically, it's putting yourself in the position of others. Here, this is really a clear thought. Where did it go? Uh-oh. Oh, it's the ability to understand another person's thoughts, right? And their feelings in a situation from their point of view, not from your own. From what what they are experiencing, you're able to sense it, to feel it, to notice it, and then take action to help with it, to offer comfort, to offer validation, right? From this place of yourself, okay? And so as an empathic person, what people call empaths, right? Okay, here's the thing. We're not taught to do this. It just is. Okay, it is how we are as human beings when we have this capability, this ability, this superpower, whatever, okay? And a lot of people see it as a detriment to themselves because toxic people get in and they have so much empathy for these toxic people that they're unable to navigate it. They're unable to say, yeah, but that person isn't basically worthy of my empathy, right? And I don't mean that in a cruel way. I mean that in a way of self-protection or rather choice. Okay. I don't like to approach the world from self-protection. I prefer to approach the world from choice. So we aren't taught how to choose where to place action of empathy. We can have empathy wherever we have it, right? It's not something you turn on and off. But the action we take and the outpouring of empathy and the expectation of empathy in return can be super confusing with narcissists. Here's why. A lot of them are covert. A lot of narcissists, toxic people in particular, will feign empathy. It's sympathy. Basically, they are relating to you through their own experience of a situation or to their own thoughts or how they might feel rather than, I mean, as an empathic person, can you think for yourself here? We have both sympathy and empathy, but have you had situations in your life where the situation is something you've never experienced and yet you still are able to feel something? You may not have words for it, you may not have a definition for it, but feel something about that situation that feels aligned with what you're witnessing in the other person. And when you ask them, "Hey, is this what's going on?" They say, "Yes," or "Oh my gosh, thank you for hearing me," right? Because you're not doing it through a thinking place. So a narcissist will see a situation, a covert in particular, one that is the communal type, the do-gooder type, the one that wants everyone to think they're amazing, the ones that are, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so they will take this witnessing this radar for something that's going on, convert it through sympathy in their heads. Oh, I know exactly what that person's thinking. It's all done up here, right? It's all done cognitively. And then for their own gain, use the information to outpour a reaction. And so from the receiving end, you feel like that person's empathizing until you get to know them, until you realize every action they take is to serve themselves. Empathy being displayed and shown and given to someone else isn't done for that reason. It isn't done in that way. It's simply given, right? There's no expectation of anything in return. In fact, it kind of it throws you when someone feels like they owe you because you've shown them empathy, right? It's like, whoa, that's disturbing. Don't do that, right? So it can be very difficult because we have to learn to discern. And as someone with a lot of empathy, of course, you are empathizing with what anyone is experiencing in life, right? If you open yourself up to it and if you're just in their presence. And so, yes, of course, narcissistic people have feelings, they have emotions. I know some people are going to argue with me here, but they do. They, most of them, unless they're truly sociopathic and just void of emotional response, right? Or emotional anything, right? It's all about greed, take, want only, right? They have, or at least can display, what looks like sadness, frustration, stress, all the things humans go through in a day. What they don't have is a care for anyone else who has that feeling. What they don't have is the empathy outpouring back. They're doing everything subjectively from their own egotistical viewpoint, sympathizing if they even do that, right? Instead of truly being connected with another person through what is that person experiencing. Oh, wow. This I feel you. I feel you. You'll hear an empath type of person. I don't like to label, but I'm using the label because a lot of people like that word. Okay. An empath might say, I feel you. I hear that. I notice that. I notice that about you. I feel you. Because you're picking up the energy. You're picking up more than just an attitude or a thing that's happening, right? So, yes, a narcissist can do that too to a degree, but then they convert it up in their head to how does this serve me? Oh, I see this person's this way. If I give that, then I'll get this, right? Instantaneous split second action. So, if you are with them and you're outpouring your empathy toward them, and they are not you're pouring and you're pouring out, and you feel like there's nothing ever reciprocal coming back to you. And a lot of people at the end of relationships they'll say things to me like, I have put so much into this. I feel like my empathy has been walked on, like it has been used, like it has been, yes, that's what they're after. They're after, right? Holding on to all your good stuff. They're after the fact that they don't have to say a word and you're outpouring, knowing exactly what it is they need because you're feeling it, you're taking it in, right? Even in an argument, all they have to do is trigger you, boom, right? And they can get a reaction because you're empathically going with them on their journey into their own self-destructive behavior. Narcissists in an argument they need the fuel of the fight. They're into it, right? They're trying to heal wounds, to prove righteousnesses of their own making, to solidify their version of their delusional self and their ego. They're out to keep this construct they've created a reality. And when they're having an argument, everything in that argument is reinforcing this construct, this creation of theirs of who they think they are, right? And who they're pretending to be. So even then, they're using your empathy because they're throwing things at you that'll make you feel certain things, right? And so here's what I want to talk about here. How do you be an empathic person and stay safe? How do you stay healthy? How do you not let other people affect you? And how do you not assume other people have empathy to give back to you? Right? Hey guys. Hey Angela, Chris, thank you. And Shoshana, hello. I feel like empath actually means trauma survivor who didn't develop a personality disorder. I would agree. I feel like it's a very overused word because most humans have no, that's not true. Many humans have empathy. Okay. Narcissists lack the empathy. So it's sort of like eh, eh, pretty much everyone except the people who don't have it. And then we're calling them people with personality disorders. So but when we say empath, I think we're talking about a specific type of sensitive person who's more attuned with their empathic self, right? Or functions through that empathy. Um, Hello, Demi. Hey. Yeah. Let's talk about that. How do you be a healthy person with high levels of empathy? How do you not Okay, well, number one, we need to stop assuming and projecting. Just because we can intuit things, just because we can sense and feel what's going on in the room, doesn't mean we're right with our mind on the interpretation of what we're feeling. There's one for you. Okay. Many times we're not correct on the cognitive piece, on the part where it hooks up into the brain and the brain goes through all its memories and associations and like looking for a place to anchor, right? Our brains are like looking for a way to recall this happening before and make meaning of it. Okay, so a lot of times, okay, here's another thing. Emotion. What how did I say that in the beginning? Empathy is defined as, okay, the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than your own. Okay, cool. That's cool. But what else is it? That is actually really succinct. The ability to understand, not the feeling, not the emotion, okay? Once we translate it into a language, it becomes an emotion. We have a feeling about it, right? We say we're big feelers. We say we feel everything. Okay, but once you've got it in your emotion, it's in your psychology. Once it's in your psychology, it starts to hook to your mind. What we actually are is highly tuned, intuitive beings. Okay, and this is going to get kind of out there, but we're highly tuned, intuitive beings, right? That have a connection with something else. It doesn't come from ego, it doesn't come from self. It's simply picking up the information and reading it, right? If I assign it to my emotion, it suddenly becomes about myself. If I assign it to my thought, it suddenly becomes about me. And then it's stuck in the same thing that's happening, right? We need to do that. Why do we need to do that? So that we can take action. Otherwise, we just sit there feeling it all, right? We need to identify with it, with this feeling of empathy. Ooh, a thought. Oh my gosh, I should do that, right? I should help. I should this. I should that. But that becomes about us. Now, what happens? The only problem with that is that's exactly what the narcissistic person is going to pick up on and what they're going to what anyone who uses you, okay, not just narcissists, anyone who uses you for your empathy, that's exactly what's being expected of you. The thing is, a lot of us expect it from the world too. We want empathy back, dang it. I want it, right? Like you want, right? You don't want to just be this, "Oh, I'm just going to give to everybody." Don't I don't need a darn thing. I'm just going to like, "Oh, don't worry about me." No, right? We have an expectation of reciprocation, right? You're laughing, but it's true. We have an expectation of reciprocation. We aren't so elevated in our functioning in this world that we are beyond the psychological world that we live in with others in community. Totally okay. None of this is a judgment, you guys. This is all about how to function with this attuned skill and the fact that we are more than that. We're not just this psychological trap that we live in. The reason that matters on our terms and what we talk about here is because that world, that construct of living in that like bouncing off each other's psychology thing, in each other's egos and each other's personalities and all of that, it, it is has been the place in our minds where the trauma has occurred. If we were people who hadn't had all that, this be a different conversation. But because of that, our associations are always linking to that trauma. Now we see a narcissist or a toxic person or anyone who's not treating us right. We feel I can help them. We feel they just need more love because you know what? 100% right. They just do. But guess what? They don't care. We can't make the other I'm smacking my hand. We can't we cannot make the other person, okay, come to the realization, have a care about the amount of work that they would need to put in to crack their ego open, right? And to allow other possibilities and realities to exist. We cannot force we can't even prompt it because if you prompt it to a narcissist, it is an offense to the very thing that they believe they are and the thing that they're going to protect for the rest of their life. Okay? And that is because beyond cognitive empathy with them, there isn't anything in the empathy. Nothing's firing in the brain there. So literally, it's their survival. Okay? So if we're projecting our empathy onto them and expecting anything back, it's empty, you guys. There's no point. And it isn't mean, it isn't cruel, it isn't unkind to walk away, to become cold, to manipulate back, to and I'm not talking about like making a game out of it. I'm talking about to divert and to slip along the outside. Or if you have to live with one, to learn to say the words that gets the job done. But see, here's the thing, you're going to be living in an empathyless relationship, okay? So then know that your empathy needs to go elsewhere in life in order for you to be feeling like you're living the life you're meant to live because people with high levels of empathy, we function from it. Okay. I may not be the most squishy, lovey dovey, oh, they're there. Oh, I know that must be so hard. That's like I'm giggling because that's just not me. Okay. But my levels of empathy are pretty high because I experience what I'm talking about here. Right. Okay. If I am always having to be around people that I can't express that with, then I'm cutting off a part of myself and I'm denying myself a reality. So if I were living in a situation where I had too many narcissistic people around me, I, I would have to find other avenues for expressing and living through that empathy in a healthy and safe way for myself. It's not even safe, it's honest. Okay. We can stay safe through setting boundaries and doing all the stuff we teach. But I'm talking about something on a deeper level because when we talk about empathy, you cannot talk about it from the emotions. That's not empathy. Your emotional experience of the feelings that happen, in my opinion, are the second thing that happens after you feel empathy. Empathy happens before the words, empathy happens before the feelings of how once you've attached to it, identified with it, made it a combination of empathy and sympathy at the same time. It's not a bad thing. I think it's just how it functions. And I think, right? And yeah, so what do you do? How do you learn to be a strong how do you learn to be not even strong, what's the word? To have this empathic experience of life and not be used and not be hurt at every turn and not have it taken as a given that it's going to be given to everyone in the world, right? People don't want your empathy. They want your emotional reaction from the empathy. Narcissists do. So here's the thing, if you're feeling bad that you're not that you're going no contact because that that's another human being. Like a lot of people, there's remember varying degrees of narcissism spectrum, right? So, excuse me, if you say you're leaving a narcissistic, toxic person, whatever you want to call it, a person you're thinking might be a narcissist, right? Or a covert narcissist who's actually pretty nice a lot of the time because they can be and then pretty awful the rest of the time and so gaslighting that you can't have a conversation and it's just not going to work for your life and you don't hate them, you just don't want that in your life, or you don't understand the conflict, or it's really difficult for you, and you're going no contact, and you're like, yeah, I don't want them in my life, and I know it, and here's why, but I feel bad. Why do you feel bad? People will say, well, because I have empathy. I know that to them it looks like I just walked away. I know, not I know, I know. Does that make sense? You feel that? I know that they are hurting because they don't understand what it is they do. Okay, a lot of people feel like it's their, like, because they understand it, it's their responsibility to take care of that other person. It's not. Okay? You can feel and that knowing and just say, "Yeah, uh-huh." It and I now need to empathize with myself. Oh, that's a lot of gaslighting. Okay, that was a lot of, and there's a lot of there's a lot of reasons that if I allow that person to be who they are, which is the most honest and beautiful thing you can do in a relationship, just allow them to be who they are, it doesn't work for my life. Okay. So no contact is for the both of us. It changes things. It can. All right. To approach it in that way instead of thinking that you need to emotionally act upon the empathy that you're feeling. Does that make sense? Sometimes we do emotionally act, and that's cool. That works too. Um, let's see, what are we saying here? I'm going to back up. Okay, I hope this is making sense. I'm getting pretty esoteric here, you guys, past few days. So, also, I don't think the person who said this is in here. Speaking of empathy, okay, guys, 10-second pause for a giant empathic hug. Do all of you? Seriously, somebody asked if we could just have that because we need it. All right, there it is. Okay. All right, let's see. Demi is saying, the narcissist took my empathy. Define that for me. I love it. Define that for me, please, if you want to talk about that. I'm loving the interaction, you guys. I'm really loving the talking back and forth about these topics because I could go on and on, but without the feedback, it's not as interesting. Okay. um, Narcissist took my empathy, my care and love, and he destroyed me for having this. Do you mean that he or she, did you say he, that he received your empathy and then basically just like hoarded it for himself and it was like, grr, mine. And then used whatever it was you gave him against you? Is that what you're talking about? Because totally, if that is, that's what they do. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh, even though you don't take action, you still have those feelings. Talk to me about those feelings, Shoshana. Like, say more for you, for yourself, so that we can talk that through, because be a good example of what I'm talking about here if I had some like interaction with you with it. Okay, absolutely right. Okay. Hey, Tanya. I don't know if you just popped in, but I just gave a giant hug. So, okay. Blocked your abuser yesterday. Excellent. Good. Stay there. Empathy for yourself. Okay. Empathy in the case of feeling guilty about leaving or going no contact with a toxic parent, or going no with, or toxic anyone, really, right? Think about it like this. Yes, I understand their point of view, and then that must be difficult for them. They don't understand. They are who they are. It's always been that way for them, right? Like, they don't understand the change in me. Cool. Okay. So, but if you think about it from it being just the feeling itself of feeling that awareness of them. Okay. What else is true? What else is true is they've had plenty of time and plenty of chances and plenty of opportunity to make different change in choices in their life. What else is true is their pattern of communication is toxic to other people. What else is true is that if I place myself in their presence and remain in contact with them, I will be another catalyst for them to hurt someone, which means I'm enabling their ability to hurt someone else, which is not good for their conscious, is not good for their inner world that they're hiding from. So you see, you can take that empathy and think of a whole lot of different things with your mind once you step out of the place of that emotional hook, which would be, I feel guilty, right? I feel guilty is just covering up. It's what you were taught to think. Of course, you're not supposed to not talk to your parents. Even society says so, right? Happens though. We have to sometimes, often. Okay. What else do we want to talk about here with this? Ooh, that was a long-winded one. What else do we want to talk about this? Thinking. Empathy. Help me out, guys. Okay, here we go. I have the feeling of being sad for them because they don't see reality. Okay, but here's the thing. How much of that sadness that you feel, break that down. Have empathy in this moment for a second, if you want. Play with me here. So come back to your sense of your body for a second. Pick a spot. If you don't like to do that, hold something in your hand and feel that object. If you don't want to do that, tap your foot on the ground and feel the vibration up your toes. Whatever it is that you can do, okay? Just for a second. You got it? Okay. Take a breath. See if I can remember what I was going to say. Come back to break that down into two parts. They don't see reality. Have empathy for that without a judgment on it. Take away the sad for 1 second. Break it down. You've got two things going on there. They don't see reality. How about let's take the negative out? They see their own reality. Is that such a bad thing for them from their point of view? Not thinking it is for me anyway when I think about it from that perspective. That's their point of view. That's their reality. The fact that they're having relationships that are falling apart because of that reality is their choice. Okay? We all have choices. We can't get to choice without breaking it down a little, all right? The problem, that's a judgy word. Let's go back again. A trick, a thing that happens is this amalgamation, right? It's this combining of one experience of empathy, totally accurate. You nailed it. That what did you say? That they don't see reality. They don't see the reality of what's going on. They see their own reality is the truth there, right? You nailed it. And you can feel that, right? You can sense it. And if you then have an association in your mind about how sad that is your own interpretation of their reality. If you just let it be their reality, you've removed yourself. This is the problem with, I did it again, but it really is. This can become a problem in our lives because we take personal. That is taking it personal. Okay. It- Most narcissistic people are perfectly happy being narcissistic. They don't see a problem with it. In fact, they would, if they're told, I know of one in particular, she's told, "You're narcissistic, you scored 25 out of 25 on the test, right? You are narcissistic." And she says, "Well, so what?" Right? "Well, don't you see that it's a problem when blah, 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 blah happens?" "Well, no, because I only care about getting the thing I want. Why would I care about anything else?" Is that sad? Only for those around her. For her, no, she likes it. There is a feeling of justification and righteousness in it for her, and she's stuck in that ego trap, right? Of she can't see outside herself. Sad from our perspective when I take it personal, when I think about being in that person's presence and having to deal with them. Oh, right? So sad that she can't be a loving human being, but really, and from her perspective, it's not. So having empathy, remember, is not seeing it from your point of view. As empathic people who have also had trauma and who were not taught to function from empathy in a way that is non-self-destructive, we get the feels from it as it relates to our reality. and our desire for peace and harmony and love and all the good stuff, right? Not everyone has that desire, and they're allowed their point of view. They are totally allowed their point of view. You don't have to be around it. And and if you do have to be around it, then you need to find a way to work with it, with the situation so that it's not coming in so personally all the time. Does that make sense? I hope. And I don't mean that cold. I totally respect that person's wanting to be right. Whatever, go be right. You be right. Yay. Like it's all good. So, um, it's not good, but yeah, they don't the problem is when they are projecting all of the yuck onto everybody, when they're projecting all of the narcissism out to everybody else. So, is that making sense, you guys? Okay. Yes, be right and be miserable. Absolutely. Or be right and feel righteous and just let that ego rip roar and tear its way through life. Have at it. Just do it over there. Right? And yeah. And then it's really about I think one trick is in breaking it down like we just did, where it's like, okay, I totally hear you. Well, now let's go back, Shoshana, to you. Okay. Have some empathy for you in that situation. Come back into your body a second. I'm totally playing as if you're playing along. So we're going to pretend. I don't know if you are or not. Okay. Come back into your body a second or hold an object or whatever it is that works for you. Tap on the floor, something to get you just out of your head a sec. Okay. And now come into your heart. That just like bing, like a little bell chiming or like an exhale if you can't do it. Just blow it out. Feel that air. Just exit and the emptiness in your chest for 1 second that you can take a nice cleansing breath in with, okay? And then to think about that sadness that you feel for the person that cannot see the big picture reality, can only see it from their narrow, narrow, narcissistic, toxic little point of view. And think about the thoughts that come up when you feel that sadness. And tell yourself, gosh, you're just so feeling for others. You really want the best for them, even though like truly give yourself some compassion around that sadness. It wants validation. It wants to be heard, right? Your emotions deserve to be heard, not, no, don't think sad. Don't be sad. No, like, no, you feel that. Go ahead and feel it. Now that you've broken it down and you see their reality is their own reality and your sadness about it is your sadness. Do you have to do anything about it now for them? Question. And if you do, tell me more about it. And if you don't, tell me more about that. Okay. Whoa, so totally over it. Hey, I'm late and usually don't get in chat, but about 1623, what causes the trauma bond? By projecting our empathy onto the narcissist. Can you ask that a little differently? I'm not following it 100%. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough. Okay. I drank a really spicy chai and it got in my throat. What do you mean? 16, I can't go back and listen. Oh, that's what causes the trauma bond by projecting our it is partially, yes, because once we start yes, this is brilliant. I get it now, I think. Okay. Um, I think what you're saying is that when we are doing that thing there where we're feeling sad about something somebody else's reality is, for example, an enmeshment happens. Uh, two worlds becoming one thing happens. And when that happens with a toxic person, it lends to our own addiction to the process. Is that what you're saying? Because that's what I'm feeling from that. Or at least that's the realization I had when you said that. And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, that's not really talked about. But how true is that? That it becomes the codependency. It becomes part of the trauma bonding because you now relate to that person not only through your empathy for them, which is simply you're putting yourself in their position from their point of view and actually experiencing a bit of who they are, right? And you're having your own feelings about it. And you're expecting them to do the same darn thing towards you. And wouldn't it be a beautiful world if we could all do that, right? But um okay, Tanya, I'll see you. I did send the big giant hug out, so please feel it if you want or not. Okay. Yeah, that's brilliant. So totally over it if that's what you were talking about, and if not, say more because I think you're onto something there that isn't talked about a lot. It is through the empathy. We're not able to break the empathy down into the chunks that it needs to be broken down into because you're having empathy for them, you're having a reaction in your emotions, and then you forget yourself. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. What else we got going on here? What are we saying? Okay. Yeah, be right and be okay, we got all that. All right, anything else you guys related to this? Otherwise, I'll head out soon or I'll keep talking. Either way, I've got all day. Not really. Um, what else do I want to say about it? I came in here without any notes and now I'm done. Done. Bye. No kidding. Hey Jack, good to see you. We're talking about how our empathy, we might project and have expectations that a narcissist will have it back or want the hey Rose, or think that just like our experience of what how do I want to word this? I don't know. Let's just keep talking. Um, oh my gosh, I totally have a brain cramp. You guys help me out. Hit me up with questions. How about that? What do you guys think? So I want to start adding something in here, and that is just get some interaction going in the commenting section of the video, not so much in chat, also in chat, but the afterwards when you think about something. Okay, having a takeaway question or a couple questions that you can think about for a little bit. Come on back later and let me know in the comments so that we can keep these conversations going. What I'm trying to do here is pick up the pieces from the live stream that show up in the comment section, not so much in the chat because we're doing it live here, right? But in the afterward. And take that and take those questions, those thoughts, those people's awarenesses that come from working on this stuff together and then create the next live stream. All right. So I don't have my magic bag of tricks. So let's pretend I do. And I pull out a thing and I go, hey guys. And then we, right. So that we can talk together and do this every time we come back. It's an extension of the time before, and not but, and also a place someone popping in here for the first time feels welcome and can join into. Okay. So they just use our empathy against us. They do. And how do they do that? A narcissist will take the enmeshment part makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. I don't know. I didn't word it very well because that just hit me like a light bulb that is a piece missing and why we don't get like we can understand all this stuff about trauma bonding psychologically, but we're not just creatures of our psychology. We also have this inner awareness that has nothing to do with us, right? It's not about my psychology, my feeling, your experience. How is that about my psychology? It's not. That's another sensing, you guys. That isn't if it were part of my psychology, it would be me making it up. Right? Because it would be about me. And it's not about me, it's about the taking in of the world around us. Right? It's another way of adapting what comes toward us, the vibration, the energy, the awareness of other people and other beings and the planet and all of that, right? That is the empathy. And so I completely missed that when it came to trauma bonding. And now that I don't have words for it because it's brand new in my head, but I'm like, my mind's spinning. You see me looking around here and like that blew my mind. Awesome. Yes. Yes. Okay. Did they use our empathy again? They use our empathy against us, and they will A narcissistic person is out for themselves, right? So if you're going to give and give and give and give because you can read them and you're like, oh my gosh, they need this. Oh, wow, they need that. Oh my gosh, they're feeling this. I better do that. Okay, see, this is what they want. They want the world to revolve around their reality. A narcissistic person, if they are diagnosably narcissistic, is living in a delusion of a false persona, an ego, right? That is created by their defensiveness, by their defenses, their righteousness, their gain, what serves them, how they think the world runs, right? And so they need everything to support it. So if you're someone who is super empathic, meaning you can pick up the needs, the feelings, the position of another person, you're not picking up the ego, you're picking up what they're putting out. Okay, narcissists fool you into thinking that you are having empathy for them often because they're not putting out a true feeling. They're putting out a projection. They're putting out a projection of the ego. They're not getting vulnerable. To truly have empathy for someone, that description above was brilliant, where Shoshana said, let me find it. She has feelings of being sad for them because they don't see reality. And when we break it down and say it's not that they don't see reality, it's that they see their own reality. To say that is empathizing. Because does that feel true to you? That they see their own reality? To say they don't see reality is true if it relates to me and my reality, right? But just to say they really do only see their reality because they're not empathizing, right? They're not taking in anything from anyone else. And so then instead, they're like, yeah, this is reality. Boom, let me project that out. You will do this, you will do that. Look at me, I'm sad. Look at me, I'm that. So that you're constantly having to chase their moods. And when you're chasing their moods, you're so tired and you're so wrapped up in their world that you don't ever come back to yourself and say, what about me? I feel sad that they can't see, that they see only one reality. I feel sad. What about me? Am I empathizing there? No. What about others? When I see all these beautiful people hooked in with these toxic people, what about their sadness? Oh, I feel that too, right? And not that you need to feel their sadness and then you're like, oh, I'm a big ball of sadness. No, but you can, yeah, I get that, right? Okay. So, yeah, they use it absolutely for their gain, for their keeping their reality solid. Yep. Okay. Um having empathy for a narcissist is actually enabling them the way we use it. Yes, because like I said, we're not just having empathy. We're not like okay, so if a narcissist, I'm trying to think of an example of someone I've spoken to someone narcissistic, and they were telling me a story about their, experience with their family and their wife and blah, 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 on and on and on. And I could feel the narcissistic viewpoint that, oh, okay, I have a better one. I have this person was telling a story about someone they were going to marry. And it's not someone I would be around if I didn't have to. Okay. And I didn't have to. I could walk away because it was a public setting. But I was listening to the story and it was so narcissistic. And so basically, this person they're going to marry has no control over anything in their life because it's all filtered through what the narcissist wants. You know how that is, right? And you're like, oh, I'm getting sick to my stomach or listening to this. And I am empathizing with her, the soon to be wife, right? In my mind, I'm empathizing in my heart, like, oh, what she must feel and probably has no clue about in her mind yet. Okay. And she wasn't there. And I just was like trying to bite my tongue. But when I tried to empathize with him, the I could only relate to this really toxic, and it didn't feel good. I was like, oh, to be that selfish and that controlling of another human being, that feels powerful. That feels icky. That feels like a lot of responsibility to try and maintain. And therefore, as I started to understand the position that he was speaking from without judgment because it was so removed. I was just listening to a story of someone I don't ever have to talk to again. But does that make sense? And it doesn't it's not a good feeling, but it's not a I mean, it was just a wow, that's an interesting reality and perspective. And instead of saying, well, why would you want to control her that much? Which is my instinct and my feeling defensive for that woman. She wasn't here to say it in front of it, was just be arguing with him. I just let him be him. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to do anything. I'm never going to see this person again, right? It's not like there's someone that I actually have any influence over, or like, what's it going to do? And so I decided not to take action, right? And so I had to choose to keep my, because if I did, game on, right? All of my supply would have been we would have engaged, right? There would have been conversation, even if I kept my cool and did my best to not give a bunch of supply, just the attention on it would be supply. And the fact that someone's challenging their way would be supply. Not that we should ignore everything and not take action. In this case, there was no reason to. And it was like, I can't save the world, right? Like, and she's not here, so she wouldn't even hear it. She would never see it. It would just be a story told about some crazy woman who said something to him, if it was even told. So, it, but it would be really easy because of how angry it was making me feel. But here's the thing, what was I getting at? The point was, when we engage, we have now, if you're engaging from choice, like in that moment, I had to make a choice. Do I say something and just try really hard to not get too super emotional about this and just say a few things and walk away? Maybe the point will be heard, probably not. Or do I just keep my mouth shut, hold the burning inside, and just take some breaths and separate from that energy, which was the choice I made. In that case, I don't need to engage in it. Now, if it's something personal and you have to engage, the problem once we engage for us is we start our emotional experience of what I think and I need gets involved. Now, you and I having a conflict, that's okay, because I'm also trying to take in that what I'm saying to you isn't hurtful, is fair, is trying to see both sides so that our conflict can become something that helps us grow, right? You, as an empathic person who has learned to have debate in a healthy way, would be doing the same thing, hopefully, right? Maybe. With a narcissist, you're always met with that world of, right? The narcissism and the ego and the self and all of that. And so you get into your emotional loop and bam, you are in, you're pouring supply. I'm not saying this very well, but there's something here. There's something here. Help me, guys. Help me dissect this and what I'm trying to say. Um, I empathize, Shastina. Hey, hey, I empathize with Narcula, but I have more empathy for me. And if I continue to let him be in my life, I have empathy for yourself. Sorry, have empathy for yourself that they hurt you. Yeah. And the hurt that they did to you. Right. Rose is saying, right, they put out what will get the reaction they want. Of course. Yeah. And Jack is saying they know that we're not rude enough to even think they're doing what they do. Oh, right. Right. But see, that is when, do you see what I'm getting at? So what happens is we have an intuition. Let's call it that. We have something. It's, to me, when there's an empathic response to something, or sense of something, it literally feels like a string being strung inside me. There's a vibration. And I know when I feel that from having this experience with enough awareness, in the many years of trying to understand this for myself, that is not a thought. That isn't coming from me. Okay? What happens, where my work is for myself, and this is what I'm sharing, is in attaching meaning to that feeling of the string being plucked or whatever, the vibration of empathy into my associations in my brain, which now makes it personal. And once it's personal, I'm both empathizing and projecting my will into the situation. Right? Because then we're part of the dance, and we're part of the whole problem of why we engage and entertain being supply for narcissistic people. or for anyone, really. Okay. And we're not having true relationships. And we're like, oh my gosh, nothing is ever deep enough, right? Because they don't go that way. Okay. Chris, so we can have like cognitive empathy for them as human beings, but not act on it because it will backfire and hurt us. Yes. Right. I think the cognitive empathy is, if I were to teach it, okay, from what I understand now, and I'm no expert here. Well, not, I mean, I'm my own world, maybe a little, I'm getting there. Okay. But if I were to teach this piece, I would say, if I were to like start, let me design a class to teach this piece to empathic people, I would start with saying, learn to recognize when you have had something come to you from empathy. Learn to feel in your body when it's empathy and when it's your own projection or thought. Learn to discern the difference. If you're thinking about it and having an emotion, it's probably already slipped into a combo place of both. If it is just a feeling and there's no words for it yet, it's just a, do you know what I'm talking about? There's that moment before you start making associations where you pick up someone's energy, you pick up someone's something, and it feels a certain way. And you might have a thing of like, oh, something's going on, or oh, they're really upset, right? Like you pick it up before you start having judgment. Okay. Once you have judgment, it's really difficult to make choice. If you can learn to feel that place in between and take a second and be like, oh, that was an empathic moment. Okay. So I'm having cognitive, I mean, like that's cognitive empathy right there. I am aware of that person's position. Let me take a second. Let me notice them. Let me notice myself. What's going on with me? Oh, wow. This is really similar to something that happened to me. And I am now thinking, okay, so let me take care of my feelings first and my thoughts first. Just like we did when we broke down the thing of feeling bad that somebody can't see reality, feeling sad. Well, take care of your sad first. Break it down. What am I feeling? And like just like we did, that's how I would teach it. I mean, that's how I would approach it. Okay. And I'm not being super clear here because it's better with examples. But yeah. Um, yep. Okay. Unconditionally loved. That's what you, okay. People who have been taught to be nice or haven't been unconditionally loved don't have defense against narcissists. Right. And my guess is also people who are that plus highly sensitive or very empathic, very have a lot of gentleness or kindness about them, are healers. We all have different energy, right? We all have different function in this on this planet. So yeah. Hmm. And yeah, and if you aren't unconditionally loved, see, this is where the psychology comes in, right? Because if you haven't been loved, you're associating love from all these places that isn't has nothing to do with love. Love isn't given. It just is, right? Love is, let's go into a long philosophical discussion about love, please. No, truly, love is vibration. Love is bliss. It's connection with something higher. It's not even an emotion. All right? What you feel about love is the emotion. Love is something else. Okay? So define it a little bit with your mind. What is it to you? What is love? We're expecting it from other people, right? As humans, because babies need love, children need love. And when you have parents who can't give it, we're learning that love is associated with transaction, with worthiness, with other people's opinions, with, you know, being perfect, with all the things that come with toxic parenting, right? But that's because the other person who was teaching you that doesn't understand what love really is. Okay. And they love through their narcissistic lens. If you had a toxic narcissistic parent, right, that they love through that narcissistic lens, which means everything relates back to themselves and their ego and their protection of the delusional world that they create. Right? Okay. Um, right. And here we go for what Chris is saying. Then I'm going to add some words if you don't mind. Then it comes down to not having a sense of self, which is exactly what happens when you spend your life trying to prove your worth. And why are you trying to prove your worth? Because you were taught that love, which is this universal thing all human beings seem to want, right? Even narcissists, right? They want love, but they want this strange version of it that is about their ego. And that's it. But if you think about it, if you have a baby and you're not a narcissistic person, if you have a moment where you have a close friend and you feel that connection, if you love nature, if you are out, I don't know, hiking, if you're a hiker, or surfing, if you're a surfer, it's something where you're in connection and communion with something bigger than yourself. And you have this experience of elation and lightness and right? That's love. Okay. I can't even define it. I can define it for myself, but I can't define it for each of you. Right. And you know what it is because it's the connection, right? It's the feeling of connection with something other than self, which is the exact opposite of a narcissist because they want the siphoning of things that aren't self to be incorporated into the world of delusion, right? That makes it about them. So if you're raised with that as your template for love and you are an empathic, sensitive, kind human being, you got to learn a whole new language, right? And a whole new experience of self because here's the thing, you were never taught as Chris said to have a sense of self. That is having a sense of self. If you can open up to that space, and that's why, coming back inside to self, not your ego, not what you think you are, because what you think you are is wrapped up in what they taught you and what the world teaches you in who you truly are, which is this empathic being on the planet connecting, right? Taking in information, taking in feeling, sending out vibration of your own feeling, healing. Okay. Getting out there again, you guys. I warned you. Okay. Jack says, here's one you all might relate to. Thank you, because I don't think I'm saying relatable things today. All right. When we connect with someone good, in quotes, who has been narcissistically abused, we empathize with them. Then we find out the hard way they are also a narcissist. Well, here's what I'm getting at, Jack. That's a brilliant example. And also, can I take it apart a little bit? Not in a bad way. Okay. We have a moment of connection through something painful that's also happened to us. So we are empathizing and sympathizing at the same time. Does that make sense? We are putting ourselves in their position because we get it, because we've been there and we can validate. We can validate our own experience, which is the sympathizing, and their experience, which is the empathizing, because it's known to our whole system, our body, our mind, our hearts, everything. Okay. And so if you get pulled into that and all you're doing is hooking on to that connection, grasping on that connection, right? Without seeing who they really are as a person, absolutely you can find out the hard way that they are also toxic or narcissistic or whatever. Because who knows what their truth is? You've hooked on to the one thing that you connected through instead of allowing it to see them for who they actually are. And that is one way they use your empathy. If you can sympathize at the same time as empathize, that means you have now taken it personally. You've found a personal connection instead from here, you guys, not from here. Okay? The knowing. Well, I'm going to do this instead because it's not like, "Oh, I love you." It's like, "Wow, that's love. You want some?" right? I got enough because it's not of me. It's coming through me. You want it? There you go. Have it. It's yours, you guys. Here, poof, have the love, right? It's all good. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see. What are we saying here? Jack, every narcissist I've known was narcissistic. Interesting. Everyone you've known was also a product of narcissistic influence in their life. Uh-huh. When we teach our children that they have intrinsic worth just because they were made in God's image, that they deserve respect just because they are, we can build in defenses for them. We can allow them to find themselves. If you know yourself, here's the thing. A narcissistic person can come into my life. Sure. They can fool me. They can use me. They can, in fact, I'm thinking of someone right now, hurt me, cause me a lot of strategic issues in my life, cause me a lot of like, they can even financially hurt me, right? But they can't touch me because I'm not that. That's just the psychology and the world I live in to be on this planet, right? That's not who I am on the inside. They can't touch this piece that I'm trying to help you guys awaken in yourself if you want it, right? That the awareness of that this empathy that you feel isn't yours. It's a perception. It's a receiving, right? Of information and vibration. And it's a knowing that hooks up to your intuition and aligns in a different way. It's not up here. Okay. It goes up here, and that's great. We need it to go up here because then we map it. That's what empathy feels like, right? It's different than what we've been taught it is what I'm getting at, in my opinion. Okay. And I think that this awareness for me has made it so that, yes, people can totally mess with me, of course, right? But they can't actually touch that piece. They can't. They can cover it up for a little bit because I'll get pissed off and I'll go into my head and I'll be like, "Oh, get out, get out." You know what I mean? And I'll use my ego against their ego to have a battle. And because you have to lower yourself to the level of a narcissist in order to be around them, you guys. It's not us who are the survivors of this and who are empathic beings who are the lesser, so to speak. If you cannot elevate outside of your ego, you're kind of stuck. There's a ceiling. That's it. But there's a whole lot more that if you can, and that's not even an egotistical thing. It's like, I wish they could, because then, oh my gosh, how much freedom would there be to be who we are and be kind, right? So, yeah. Um, when we know our worth and value, they cannot touch us. Exactly. And when you know that from a felt sense and from an experiential sense inside yourself, it may not be easy to find. It may get buried. It may get covered up for a time, but it's always there, right? Just like love is always there, even if you don't think you've ever had it, is there. It's in you. It's moving through you. Okay? Not as an emotion, as a vibration, as a it's the feeling when, like I said, if you've ever had a baby, the first moment you felt in love before your mind said that's mine. Right? Before your mind said, "Oh my gosh, responsibility." Oh my whatever, before your mind told stories about it. It's the moment of a giant it's going for people who run, okay? That endorphin bliss. It's that feeling, but not because of running, because it is. It just is. All right? It's that moment of I don't think of love as a verb, I think of it as a vibration. Exactly. And it isn't yours. You don't love. Love moves through you, and you allow and you receive and you transmit that love outside yourself, and that's your vibe, right? That's your energy. That's why some people feel healing, because they're able to do that. And that's why some people feel closed, because they're keeping it for themselves, or they're afraid of it, or they don't know how to, they don't want to, right? So, yeah. Okay. My understanding is love is a verb for the well-being of the other. Oh, we're more careful how we give it these days, aren't we? Interesting. It's a verb, so it's an action. For you, it's an action that is given to others for their well-being. Is that correct, Jack? I'm, like, waiting as if you're like, ready to just type. Okay. Interesting. Is that something that you feel satisfied with as a definition of love for yourself, or is that something that you're open to, seeing what else is there? Love is a choice we make, not something we feel. Interesting. Again, I'll ask, and I'm not right. Love is what it is to you, okay? You get to be right for your own self. I'm merely asking, is that satisfying? And is that something are you feeling a lack of it in your life because it's not coming at you from other people's choice and choosing to give it's a choice. I'm trying to understand that. When the feeling corresponds, it's great. Okay, so you're waiting for the emotion of love. Is that what you're saying? The emotional response, the words that fit it, the everything clicking together. Okay. I know, I totally love these perspectives. These points of view are beautiful and complete, right? Like they're painting a bigger picture. And, like for myself, it's taken I understand for myself somebody asked me once, they're like, "What is love?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, I think I was like 20." I said, "Absolute sheer bliss, but I can never feel it for a human being or anything really because it isn't mine to give." Okay, and that was a 20-year-old. Like, I ca and so then I'd close off to connections with others because they're gonna hurt me. And I only wanted this feeling of whatever it was, and I would wait for it, and it would come like a lightning bolt, boom, like that, and I'd be like, "Whoa, what was that?" And it was never associated with another person. The feeling of love for relationship with me has always been riddled with anxiety, with attachments, with feelings of conflicted emotion, fear, um, jitters, butterflies. Do they care? Do they like me? Am I good enough? What should I give to them? How should I give it? Like Jack was saying, giving, giving, giving. If I give, then it will make more love, right? If I have actions, and then what were like i- waiting for it to correspond. I mean, I'm kind of relating to that, and I don't know if I'm correct, so I'm trying not to say too much because I don't want to put words in your mouth. But we're not having a verbal dialogue, so it's difficult. Yeah. Wow, and untangling ourselves from that, it's hard. Is it? I'm gonna challenge you. Is it? It's hard to hang on to. The reason it feels hard is because we create our brains map it, right? They're like a computer. They're like a program processing, right? They're processing, they're thinking. They don't really have the emotion isn't from there. The emotion is the body's reaction combined with a thought that makes this feeling in us. And that's the alignment that I think Rose was describing, right? Boom, it clicks. Ah, I feel love. Right? But even having this conversation, you guys, I am pouring it on you. Okay. The love is just because I want you to feel what this feels like. And that's my personal association with it. It's your choice. It's your whatever, right? Like it's not about me. Okay, so it feels hard because we're hanging on to a construct, because we're not getting out of the way of this beautiful organ that does all this work for us and we think keeps us safe and we think keeps us aware and understanding. It's only a little tiny piece though. We need to I think we need to fill this with a new track, with a new way of thinking, and we need to just not worry about the old thing going on in there that we're hanging on to, the old way of thinking, the old thing that's keeping us in a place we don't want to be in our life. Just let it be there. And also try something else. Try something new. You don't have to doesn't have to work for you, but trying it on means you're curious and you're open and you're willing to make the transformational change you need in your life, right? In order to become self and to be more you. Somebody a year ago, she goes, "Lise, you just need to be more you." I was like, I don't think I could be any more me. Like, I'm just thinking of it from a psychological viewpoint. Pretty raw. I'm pretty much who I am. I don't take a lot of crap. I don't, I'm thinking, what is she talking about? And she's like, you're not very giving of yourself. And I'm like, what? Yeah, okay, she's right. I'm pretty guarded. I don't let a lot of people in. I have emotional like blocks. I got these things I call boundaries, right? Whatever. But it's stuck in me for like a year now. And now I get it. Okay. Okay. I don't know how to explain it, but I get it. It's this. It's being open to change in my own reality because it's the only way to transform things. If you stay in the same reality, you're going to have the same life. All right. So Rose is saying it depends on what kind of love you're looking for. There's family love. And that is a construct that we have taken so that we can understand love and break it down and make sense of it with our brains. If you think of it as literally a physical sensation, a vibration, I mean, to me, it vibrates so fast. It's like it comes and goes as I'm talking here, right? The feeling of it vibrates so fast. It's uh, it almost tickles and you want to laugh. It's like I said, it's like a string being plucked and, and it just has that feeling of vibration. And I can assign it to my family. Sure. I can assign it to a stranger. I can assign it to anything my brain wants to assign it to. But it's not coming from them. It's being offered to them through my openness toward them because I feel safe psychologically. Does that make sense? Or I feel connected psychologically. So the love itself, and the only reason I'm going off about this, you guys, because I'm really like on a rant here, is this is what we need to fill ourselves with. It is self-love, okay? That doesn't mean I love my ego so much. Not to me, it doesn't. And I don't think it transforms much to only talk good about yourself. That has not worked for me in 52 years, okay? And I'm giving myself 1 year of babyhood where I didn't care. Seriously, it hasn't worked for me. Okay, but I'm the one talking here. So it's self-love is that. It's that string plucked that I don't even know how to call it anything else. It's just tickly and it feels nice inside. And from this place, there's nothing but benevolence coming from me toward others, which means that love is being shared. When I need to assign my relationship, sure, I want to assign an attachment. I want my psychological love to be this, that, and the other, and romantic, and this, and that, and the other. Of course I do, right? I'm not like above that. But I don't even really consider that love anymore. I consider that attachment, human attachment, and my version of personal connection in the moment, right? But from this place, I could share it, right? With everyone. And nobody can hurt me there. They can hurt the body, they can hurt the psychology, but they can't touch that. And there's no boundaries needed. Not that I'm saying don't have boundaries with narcissists because we know we need them, but from what I'm talking about here, right? So, in other words, now let me think about a toxic person that I might have some empathy for. Okay, yeah, I got one. Kind of feel kind of bad for. I feel sad that the relationship with their child will always be what it is. Okay. And there's a truth there. And it's not getting personal because I'm still in the place inside myself, right? Okay. Does that make sense? I don't know. Um, I see what Jack and oh, I totally see what they're saying, and I'm not trying to diss your version of love at all. I'm trying to ask if you want an expansion of it and you want to do something different for yourself, entertain different idea here and try it. Try it on if you want. Um, Fundamentally, that love is to be family is for protection and for family to be preserved. You don't fight to preserve something you don't love. Yeah, see, this is all really beautiful, uh, loyalty-based, um, like a subset encapsulation of a form of love, is what I'm seeing. Is that right? Um, okay, let me get to Chris's question here. This is great. Um, wait, wait, what did you say? Love for yourself first and then let it overflow to others. Yes. Okay. And then Chris said, but shouldn't we need love from others to feed us? I feel like that is a big part of the problem. Okay. We need to be able to self sustain because nothing is guaranteed. Sorry, we shouldn't need others' love to feed us. I thought you said, shouldn't we? And I'm like, no. Right? We shouldn't need love from others to feed us. Here's the truth of what I think there, Chris. There's no such thing as others' love, and there's no such thing as my love. There is only love. It's like saying, that's my sadness. It's just sadness, right? I feel the sadness, but I didn't make the sadness in a bowl and like, ooh, look, my sadness, right? And like, it's mine. Oh, that's your sadness. It's my experience of the emotion sadness is what I'm getting at. My experience of the feeling of love is self-love. There we go. I just simplified it. Okay, all that talk, I just simplified it. Wow, I've been talking a long time. I'm gonna go in a second here. Um, I bought very easy maths activity book for a few of my school students from my own money just to do it to help them from care. And that for me is a form of love. That is an act of love. Does that make sense? It is a form of love. It's a form of love, it's an expression of love. What go deeper, Jack? What made you do that? What was the feeling that happened when either you recognized that was an act of love or when you made the choice to do the thing that became an act of love? What was the feeling inside you? And I don't mean feelings, emotion. We've already defined the emotion, love. What was the experience of that feeling? The experience of that feeling is what we're lacking, you guys. That's what, as empathic people, we're out there often just like begging for connection, right? We want someone to get us. We feel like we're aliens on a planet where no one gets us half the time, where there's no connection, where people don't go deep, where there's not like that thing, right? Do you guys experience that? I don't know, maybe not. But love will always act. It's only a feeling. It's not only a feeling. Well, okay, for you, it's only a feeling. I'm sorry. I keep saying it's not to you. I don't mean that to be, I don't mean to talk that way to you, Rose. What I'm trying to say is yes. And what is the experience of the feeling? When you find a way you don't have to define it. In fact, like I said, defining it as a vibration plucked of a string is simplifying it. I can't define it. It's like or it is only a feeling. Okay. Or it is only a feeling, right? Yes, Lise, the brain and the body tangled together from something we believed was real. I found recently was hard to untangle, but did it much quicker this time. And so how how do we get there, right? Like, so this is the point of how to transform yourself, if you choose, beyond what you were taught love is, because we know that most people here were not taught healthy love, right? We were taught love is something that you receive from someone else as a form of gifting, as a form of ownership, as a form of transaction, as a form of good or bad, right or wrong, perfection toward, like if you're perfect, you'll get it if something that can be given and taken, something that, and how do you get out of that? That's the question. So let me ask that. You guys, if you're watching this far, wow. Okay. And thank you. And let me ask you in the comments, what is love to you? Okay. Let me know in the main comments. We can keep this conversation going next week. All right. What is love to you? And what about your version of what love is would you like to open up into something different? How do you see it not benefiting your life? How do you see it as something that feels missing or something that feels empty? Because when you are full of self-love, and what does self-love mean to you? So those are a lot of big questions, okay? Put them in the main actually, think about them for a little bit if you want to play with me. Think about them a little bit and then come back to the comments. And even if you don't watch the video again, just leave me a comment in the main comments. And from those comments, I'll reply briefly uh, to talk to you personally. But from those comments, I'll come up with some topics for next week to keep going with this kind of conversation because I think that becoming healthy in the self-love department, in the what the heck is it to be an empathic human being department is the ticket to not having narcissists around in your life. And if you can't get away from them, uh, like this could change things for you. Okay. Don't be scared. Baby steps and let me know. Okay. All right. What are you saying here? Yes, let's see. Learning to love myself has been a journey. Hello, James. But now I know my worth. My self-love is unbreakable and it fuels my happiness. I am complete on my own. Can you, James, before we go, since we were just talking about all that stuff, I don't know how when you came in or how much you heard, but what is can you give a little definition of what self-love is for you? Because I think we'll talk about self-love again more next week. What is it for you? How do you know you have it? How do you know you're in it? Like in the moment. What is it like for you? If you can't, can you think on it and let me know in the comments? I would love to know and keep talking about it. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. So, all right, you guys. If you need coaching, group coaching, or peer support for this kind of stuff, or simply getting out of toxic relationships or dealing with toxic people or whatever it is that you got going on in your life related to that, let me know. You can find everything related to that in the main description of every video, ways to reach me, ways to contact, to get the coaching help you need or the peer support you need. Yeah, so look that up, hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe, share the videos, get the word out there so that we can grow as a community here. My aim and goal is in the transformation of your lives, okay, for yourself if you choose. Okay. I will be talking about narcissists and I will be talking about toxic people and all of that in shorter videos. But I really am trying to build a community of health and healing and growing versus one that is staying in that lower realm of narcissism because I get tired of being in their little box. Okay. And this is where my heart lies, is in sharing this kind of stuff with you guys. And even if I'm just like rambling, finding the threads that you guys are saying, oh, okay, that's really cool. I love that. Okay, so self-love means, James is saying, self-love means embracing myself, flaws and all. It's about prioritizing my well-being and nurturing my mind, body, and soul. It's a journey of acceptance, forgiveness, and growth. That's beautiful. And Emily, that's beautiful too. Emotional, structured, supportive love, and non-materialistic. Mhm. Is that what you mean for healthy love and self-love? So you guys, How do you know you're feeling it? Is it through actions? Is it through a sensation? Is it through like how do you know you're there when you're doing all of these things? When you're embracing it, do you have no more inner dialogue that is bad? Like how do you know when you've achieved that level of self-love? How do you what is your indication before even before there's words that form? How do you know? Or even before there's a thought about it? How do you know you're really like you're living it, right? And the reason I'm asking is so that people can also get there, right? So we can help others to find that because that's a freedom, right? It's the freedom of being who you are as a human being and allowing self, right? Okay. All right, you guys, I'm gonna head out. Been here an hour and 25 minutes, so I think that's plenty. And I will see you guys next week. You have a lovely weekend. And yeah, let's see. Anything else that we missed? No, I don't think so. Okay. Bye, Angela. I'm always happy and optimistic, never negative or well, that's good. It's not really true, but it's good. Although I tend to be silly when I am negative, but no, I can get pretty negative. It gets dark in here. It does. Yeah, it's the INFJ thing, right? Like the judgy judger is in there. But yes, yeah. Yes, thank you, and thank you, Chris, and did somebody else come into mod? I think there was someone. If not, thank you, Chris and Shastina. I can't see. I think it's Chris and Shastina today. Thank you guys for helping out and being present and all your great questions. And thank you guys for your participation. See you next week. Take care.